a PlayStation 5 game review. This is a first for the channel. This is for 1% of the population that owns a PlayStation 5. Hope everyone enjoys. So if you guys ever had that childhood game you remember very fondly and you want to go back to it, that's Ratchet and Clank for me. I remember playing that series as far back as when I was like 5 or 6 years old. It was back during the PlayStation 2 days. I remember seeing the commercial for the second game, Going Commando, during the trip to Walmart, and my father got the first game on Greatest Hits. And I remember just being absorbed by the atmosphere of the first game, and I got sucked into the series after that. The first 3 Ratchet and Clank games, along with a few other games of the PlayStation 2, really made my childhood special. Revisiting those games nowadays, the first one hasn't really aged that well, just because certain gameplay mechanics haven't been fleshed out, but I can say it's a really good story, and the atmosphere of the first game is still immersive to this day. I would definitely check it out if you're able. 2 and 3 are some of my favorite games of all time. I really can't decide between Going Commando and Up Your Arsenal. Up Your Arsenal is special because I remember seeing that brand new for Christmas and plugging it in and playing it all Christmas morning. What makes the first 3 games special is they're teen-rated games where the cartoony visuals will appeal to kids, but the jokes and the writing can appeal to adults. Like, these games age better as time goes along. I can appreciate some of the jokes that they will no longer make into these games because they're targeting the games to a younger demographic. Really, the first 3 games and the 4th one that most people don't even talk about is a satire on consumerism. Like, here, I'm gonna show a quick clip, for example.
Dad, blast it!
Look, plumber's crack.
What did you just say?
I said, look, the plumber's back.
All right, wise guy.
Some of these jokes they probably could not get away with today because of the current landscape in regards to comedy, but I'm not going to get into that. That's a whole nother subject entirely. But the future series on the PlayStation 3, I remember seeing Tools of Destruction, the poster at Walmart again, and I wanted it so bad, but at the time I didn't understand it was for the PlayStation 3 because my parents were like, yeah, no, because that console was a $600 console at the time. It's no wonder that thing didn't sell well. I mean, nowadays, we have $500 consoles, but you gotta understand, back then in like 2006, it was quite the leap from a $200 to $300 console to go upwards of $600. And granted, Sony actually made those PlayStation 3s for $900, so they were taking a $300 loss because they thought the PlayStation 3 was gonna sell amazing after PS2 numbers. But I remember in 2008, I got the PlayStation 3. It was awesome. I got a copy of Sonic Unleashed. We went to the store. I got, what was it, Lego Star Wars The Complete Collection and Ratchet and Clank Tools of Destruction. I was blown away by those graphics. Granted, today they look a little dated, but they look still good. But it was just such a leap compared to PlayStation 2 and PlayStation 3. Like, the models looked realistic at the time. Not realistic. It looked like a Pixar movie, which every game after that game tried to make it look like. Just cracking time. The gameplay was awesome, but I remember it being hard. I never got to beat it when I was at that age because I wasn't that good towards the later levels. I didn't know A Quest for Booty was a PSN exclusive, so I didn't get to experience that. But cracking time, I remember that. That was great as well. I got that during Christmas, I believe. I got cracking time during Christmas as well. And that is my personal favorite of the Future series. Just exploring those little moons. The story was really good. To this day, it's definitely my second favorite of the series. Anyone who hasn't experienced Crack of Time, you have to experience it. It is a phenomenal game. And then after that, I kind of had a dry spell for the series. I don't know. I didn't really play any of the games. Because they made those mini game like games, like, you know, All for One and Full Frontal's I didn't really care for. So I sort of just got out of the series. I was into Call of Duty for a little while, and it wasn't until I got PS3 Super Slim. We exchanged the old fat PS3, not the backwards compatible on PS2. No, not that one. The other one that they took the backwards compatibility out. And when I was purchasing PS3 games, because they were super cheap when I got them, because PS4 was all the rage, so PlayStation 3 games were mad cheap. I got a copy of Into the Nexus, and I got the Ratchet and Clank HD collection, which that's how I play the original games these days, despite some of the glitches like the helmet glitch. Into the Nexus, I think is a really good game as well. I don't go back to it really because of how short it is. It's only like a 3 to 4 hour game. Honestly, I felt like it should have been a PS4 launch title, considering it came out around the same time as the PS4. It's probably why really no one's heard of it or talked about it. But yeah, I think Insomniac should have just converted it to a PS4 game, and I think the PS4 would have had a good launch lineup, all things considered. But the game, it was really good. Some of the concepts we used for the remake later on, but my issue is just the 30 frames per second in the game. Like, the game drops frames a lot, which I don't get. Like, the graphics look better than Crack of Time in some regards. I don't like the art style particularly, but Crack of Time was able to maintain a solid frame rate, yet Into Nexus was struggling. So that's why I don't really go back to that entry that often. Fast forward, we go into the remake. At the time, I was just blown away by the graphics. Even today, they still look good. But the game was capped at 30 frames per second again. And the story was based off that horrible movie. And I honestly, it's just really, how do I put this simply? It's hard to describe this game because I don't hate it, but it is definitely one of the weakest entries of the series. The gameplay was refined, but I don't know, it just feels stale to play. It just doesn't really have any energy behind it. Also, they cut half the content from the original game, which contributed to that, and just really, the characters fell flat. It felt like another entry of the series. The remake did sell well, which I'm happy for because that means more games in the series. Then we fast forward to now, the PS5. I was watching the live stream showing what they have for the console, and the fact that Rift Apart was essentially in the launch window of PS5, I was like, I have to get the PS5 like on launch. So I did. Managed to somehow pre-order a PS5 through Walmart, despite the whole craziness of trying to find a console now. But I was one of the lucky ones that was able to secure a PS5. And I got Spider-Man Miles Morales, which Spider-Man's a really good game from Insomniac. One of my favorite games for them, and one of my favorite games on PS4, next to Ghost of Tsushima, which Julie and me may do a review on Ghost of Tsushima if you guys want to see that. Anyways, so I got a copy of Miles Morales with the Spider-Man remastered, and I got the Sackboy game because, I wanted a multiplayer game to play with Jace. And I got Demon's Souls for my birthday, which Demon's Souls, I cannot beat that game, but it's a really good game. Demon's Souls is good. It's just I can't play it because I suck at that game. But Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart was the game I was looking for, the PS5. Spoiler already, like, just for overall thoughts, it is the game to buy the PS5 for. Like, if you've been eyeing the PS5 and you could somehow get the console, you need to get Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart. It is a phenomenal game, and it's a great return to form for the series. So, quick plot summary for Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart. It continues the original continuity after Into the Nexus. It's been a few years. Ratchet and Clank really haven't been doing anything. They haven't saved the universe, so they're a little bit rusty despite them being really good in gameplay. Like, they haven't really lost some of their luster, but whatever. What really surprised me is that this is a story about depression and self-doubt. In the beginning, we start off with a parade for Ratchet and Clank. They're celebrating for just being heroes. And Clank gives Ratchet the Dimensionator, which will allow Ratchet to find the other Lombaxes, the race Ratchet is. And of course, Clank decides to give him the Dimensionator as they're being attacked by goons. Like, totally smart, Clank. But they haven't been keeping their skills sharp, so I can let that slide. Dr. Nefarious took the Dimensionator and created some sort of dimensional crisis where they went to another dimension that Nefarious wins. So Clank feels responsible for this whole mess because obviously he's the one who got to the Dimensionator and ends up breaking. So now they have to figure out a way to get home and stop this new Dr. Nefarious. And we're introduced to Rivet, who's the dimensional counterpart of Ratchet, but she's always lost, whereas this Nefarious is always won. Which is really interesting. I never thought of that, of a story where a hero always loses and the villain always wins. So Ratchet pals around with Clank, and Ratchet is by himself. He's trying to get Clank, which at first I was like, come on, again with this story? We've already done this in Crack of Time where Ratchet's been apart from Clank. However, we get a new gameplay mechanic that totally remedies the problem, the lack of Clank, the Phantom Dash, which reminds me of the Mega Man X game series where Mega Man X is able to dash, like a quick dash in gameplay to speed it up. And let me just say, after this game, the Phantom Dash has to be in future games. Honestly, it may be hard for me to go to some of the older games just because of how much it speeds up the gameplay. Like, the Phantom Dash is such a gameplay changer. It's simple. You just press the circle button, it gives you a quick dash. However, it is so versatile. It can be used to dodge enemies. It can be used to go over obstacles, which when you get the hover boots later on, the hover boots combined with the Phantom Dash gives you a pace in Ratchet and Clank I have never seen before in the series. It is so addicting to play with this gameplay mechanic. So while Ratchet receives the Phantom Dash, I'm like, I don't care about Clank right now. I don't care about Clank. I'm totally fine with this. But Ratchet later on pals around with Clank's counterpart, Kit, in order to build a Dimensionator. What I do like about Kit, and this review is going to have spoilers in it as well, Kit is what Clank was supposed to be. In the original game, Clank was manufactured to do evil things, but he was a good guy instead. Kit was made to be what Clank was, and she feels ashamed of that. She has self-doubt about herself. She doesn't think she's worth much. And I like how Ratchet inspires her, like, hey, we can make a great team. Because Ratchet, after Clank really brings out the best in Ratchet. And that's what I love about this game. Because Ratchet and Clank's relationship is no longer that of a friendship. It's almost like they're brothers. Like, they've been inseparable for such a long time. And I really like that Clank pals around with Rivet, because you get to learn more about her, and it's a great introduction to the new characters. This is the first time in the series we've played as another character, which I'm surprised it took that long to introduce a new character to play as rather than Ratchet. Rivet plays the same as Ratchet, which may be disappointing at first. I kind of wish she had more going on with her, but at least it's not like the Sonic adventure games where they introduce drastically different gameplay styles and you left wishing that you could go back to Sonic. No, Rivet plays the same as Ratchet, which I appreciate. Even if they didn't do much with her in terms of new gameplay mechanics, I'm at least grateful it's still the same fast gameplay that I've come to love in the series. Diving into the gameplay a little bit more. If you've played Ratchet and Clank before, you would know what to expect in this game. It gave me exactly what I wanted, and that's all I can ask for. Ratchet and Clank is a 3D platformer shooter for those who don't know about what this game offers. You get all these crazy guns, and you get to upgrade them like an RPG system, a role-playing system. And what I like particularly about this game, what I like the most, is that it has more content than the reboot, because the reboot didn't really have some of the series staples like the armor system or the gladiator stages. So I appreciate that this game brings it back. And the writing is so much better than the reboot. The reboot has so many cringe jokes. It's hard to play these days. I always skip the cutscenes in the reboot because just how much the story blows. But in this game, it doesn't have as many jokes as the series is known for. But hey, I appreciate that because they've given me a well-written story. So I'm like, okay, if they're not going to bring the jokes, because the jokes of the original games are long gone. They've gone for more kiddie, Pixar-like jokes, which, fine, they want to go towards that route. They give you almost a mature story. Like, some mature viewers can appreciate the story. Here's an interesting thought I had while playing the game. The Doctor Nefarious of Rivet's Dimension, he's always won. That's all he's ever known. He's seen success, and he's become arrogant. He's never learned from any failures, and he's bored. He's been chasing this thrill of winning, and it just no longer does it for him because he hasn't been challenged. Rivet keeps trying to win, but she never has. She never had that counterpart. She's never had a partner like Clank. So that's why Ratchet is a very capable protagonist, but with Clank, he makes him a better person overall. So going back into the gameplay, again, the newest addition is the Phantom Dash, which completely changes the pace of the gameplay. It was always fast-paced, but this just brings it on to a whole nother level. And you get the hover boots that's been introduced in this future series, so you can just blaze through one of the open planets. And it's just so exhilarating. It's not like Sonic the Hedgehog, but you could really get some nice, fast-paced gameplay out of this game. Now, I will say, without a doubt, this is one of the best looking games I have ever played. It is straight up a movie. All these games, the tagline was, it's like a Pixar movie. Nah, this is the Pixar movie. And the graphics blended so well with the cinematics, because in some of the games, they were CGI pre-runner cutscenes, so you could tell, especially with some of the future games. But this game, because the graphics are so phenomenal, it blends in so well with the gameplay. Jace walked in while I was playing the first level when you're chasing Dr. Nefarious. He's like, is that the cutscene, or are you playing the cutscene? I'm like, yes, we've reached that point. The cutscenes now look like the graphics. It's so smoothly integrated, you can't even tell. It's like the Uncharted games with their set pieces that you're like, it's like a movie. This is what it's like. It's a movie. It's a better movie than the one we got for 2016 Ratchet and Clank. And at the end, I was satisfied with the ending of this game, because it leads into another game. Because with this game, I don't quite feel a sense of finality. You do get some answers to some of the mysteries of the future games, like the Lombaxes, but not all the answers. So I do like that it leaves it open for a sequel, which I think this game is going to do really well. And I hope it gets a sequel, although we're probably not going to see a sequel to Rift Apart until much later in the PS5 life cycle. Probably not. It's definitely going to be a while. But I'm so glad that the story did suck. I'm so glad. It's a good story overall. I cannot give it enough praise. I do have some minor gripes. I do wish the game was longer. It is a $70 game, and personally as a fan, I think it's worth the $70. It took me only around 10 to 12 hours to beat it on my first go, even collecting some of the collectibles like the Rhino and the armor pieces. Oh, that's another thing I gotta get into. The armor system. So in the past games, the armors were to decrease the amount of damage you take from enemies, but in this game, it's customizable. So you can pick different armor sets that give you different stats and perks that you can use in the game. Increase in bolts or damage reduction from a certain enemy type. And you could customize the colors. So you get a really customizable armor. Because some of the armors I'm not really fond of, but I was able to make my own armor that I thought looked really cool. So I think this is a nice innovation for the series. So I hope they bring that back for the next game. Overall, with Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart, overall with this game, we're going to rate it a little bit differently. So instead of out of 5 Chico Nuggets, it's going to be 10 Chico Nuggets, just so that way it makes it easier for me to rate it. So I'm going to give this game 9 out of 10 Chico Nuggets. You need to buy this if you're planning on getting a PS5. It is really a showcase for what this game could do, because there is almost no loading times, which is crazy with how immersive these worlds are. They are truly a spectacle to watch. The gameplay is really an evolution for the series more than a refinement. I do wish it was a bit longer. I think it was a tad shorter than I would have liked it to, but it's a good length. It's super replayable. I'd rather have a replayable, fun game that's shorter than a long game that feels drawn out. That's how I've always been with games. The new characters introduced are a welcome addition. I hope to see them in future entries. Those are my thoughts on the game. So stay tuned for the next video. We're going to be making some major changes to the format. We're really pumped and excited to show you guys. And yeah, thank you for watching. Have a nice day.